Hey guys, what's going on? Welcome to another video. In this video, we're talking about Raider.io's recent post on April 1st around the new potential 9.1 Season 2 seasonal affix. Now, we haven't had anything confirmed here, so this is all just speculation, but I wanted to talk about it anyway. The potential affix is called Imprisoned. And they noticed this as they were on the tournament realm. And this is where the MDI competitors can go and basically buy a keystone and change it with different affixes so they can test stuff. Well, one of the affixes was Imprisoned. Just to read what it says, the jailer's Morsworn forces are present throughout the dungeon. Now, the reason this has been speculated to not be just a new affix and instead be a new seasonal affix is because there was an affix in Season 3 Battle for Azeroth called Beguiling, which was Azjara's emissaries are present throughout the dungeon. Now, I think this is a pretty fair estimation to then jump to say this is potentially the next seasonal affix. Now, I'm going to talk through a couple of things here. I'm going to talk through the seasonal affix and all that sort of stuff, but I'm also going to talk about what seasonal affixes should do to Mythic Plus, and I don't think this is it, but we'll get there. So, as you can see from the pictures, there are Morsworn enemies that have come straight out of the Maw into different packs. Now, from what I see, they don't do anything except cast Imprison. Now, just to read the Raider.io description, I will link this post down below as well in the comments or in the description if you do want to read it for yourself, but I will read what it says. Upon entering combat with a Morsworn mob, it instantly starts to cast a spell called Imprison. The spell cannot be interrupted, cannot be outranged, and the mob cannot be crowd controlled. The only way to avoid the cast completing is to kill the mob before it finishes its cast. The cast is 6 seconds long, and at lower key levels it was no problem to burst down. But as soon as we started getting into higher keys, and especially fortified higher keys, some of these casts started going off. Now, that's horrible, first of all. I just want to say that's horrible. I'm absolutely rooting that this isn't the seasonal affix. And why is that? Because you look at the Mythic Plus meta and what people want to do in a Mythic Plus environment. They want to pull big packs of mobs. They want to pull things together. It's about being fast. It's about being efficient. This kills that entirely. You may, from what they were saying, is that around every second pack you had a Morsworn mob, which means you can only ever pull 2 packs together. And even then you don't really want to do it because of the Imprison. Now, what happens if the Imprison goes off? Whenever a Morsworn mob manages to complete its cast of Imprison, one random party member becomes chained. This is similar to the Eye of the Jailer in the Maw, that chains you to the floor, and there's like 5 little pillars you have to click. The spell in the Maw is called Soul Surge. Pedestals spawn around the affected player and chain them in place. Now, in the Maw, you just click them off yourself. Unlike the Maw version, the dungeon effects also incapacitates the player, which means the chains could only be removed by other members clicking on them, which is horrible. I mean, if one cast goes off, you need your team to really react quickly. The chains stayed in place for 8 seconds. If they were not removed before this timer expired, the affected player was then stunned for 12 seconds. A 12-second stun. Bearing in mind, you're already incapacitated for 8 seconds. This is a 20-second CC. That's horrible. We found it was pretty easy to avoid this by everyone being aware if the cast was going off. So it's nice to know that as long as you're aware of it, you were able to deal with it. But still, the few times we were unable to free the affected player, it was a massive blow to progress, and I could see that. I really, really can see how this could be pretty crazy. So yeah, that's the article. Like I said, I'll link the article in the description below. But, so let's talk about Imprison first. I hate it. I absolutely hate it. It's going to slow down Mythic Plus pulls to 1 to 2 packs at a time. There's going to be no massive pulls because if an Imprison goes off and you don't manage to break them out, It doesn't say anything if one person can break all of the chains or if multiple people have to break the chains. I imagine one person can go around breaking all the chains, but this just means you have to have someone running around on chain duty for the entire dungeon, which isn't particularly nice. But you're certainly not going to get any of these like 5-6 pack pull MDI pulls anymore because you just can't. You look at the other side in Ardenweald. It's pretty standard now that most groups pull the Moths, the 3-pack on the right-hand side, the Patrol, maybe the Bridge pack, all in one pull. Well, if they have 2, maybe 3 more Swarm mobs in, which statistically they would, that means you're going to have to deal with 2 lots of imprisons. Well, if 2 people are incapacitated, if 2 separate people are incapacitated, you're stuffed. You haven't got a chance because you're not going to be able to break. You have to click 10 chains to break them out, right? Or certainly you would if it's the same as the Maw. You'd have to break 10 chains to break them out, and if that's on a healer, it's a wipe. If that's on a critical DPS, your Fire Mage, it's probably a wipe on higher keys. I mean, it certainly balances the whole fortified and tyrannical thing. Fortified's actually probably going to be worse now. But you also got to remember, this has no positive upside. And this is what I really don't like. And I'll talk a little bit more about it in a minute. But Prideful at the moment is a way of dealing with tyrannical. It's a way of dealing with really big fortified pulls. It's not great, and the Affix has got its problems, but if you time your Pridefuls correctly, you can definitely get some benefits out of it. And look at Hakar in the other side. It is literally one of those fights. It's just a DPS race. The difference between getting a second blood barrier and killing it before adds about 1.5 minutes to the fight timer, because you just start chaining it then, and you're getting 1 or 2% every time. Whereas with Pride, you can burst it down quite a lot, that you're probably only going to get 1 blood barrier with a very strong group, and that means that your kill time is much quicker. This Imprisoned, from what we see so far, has 0 positive impact on Mythic Plus. Potentially, if the more Swarm mobs give percentage, it changes the percentage routes, which isn't a bad thing. I'm happy with that. I'm okay with that. But yeah, I mean, definitely something that's going to need testing, and I don't want to judge too quickly. I kind of am, but I don't want to judge too quickly. But I feel like this is going to be a negative impact. I feel like... So let me talk about what I would like to see in a seasonal Affix. And I think Prideful was nearly there. I want to see a seasonal Affix that allows me to min-max, and it might be a negative, it might be a positive, depending on how I play it. So you look at Prideful. If you get Prideful in the correct locations, most of the time, it can be a good thing. And while, yes, there are times where you just get Prideful in a random place and it's horrible, and the time to kill it is worse than any time you've made up, which I'm sure is the case for a lot of the teams in the higher keys, I feel like it still offered you a positive and a negative. It wasn't all bad, it wasn't all good, but it was somewhere in the middle. This is literally just, we are going to make everything you're doing right now harder. And I'm not sure I like that. So, let me know what you guys think of Imprisoned. Did you like Prideful? Would Prideful work as something similar, or a positive negative type thing? But if you actually look at what Mythic Plus was based on the Greater Rift Keystone from mechanic from Diablo 3. Well, you look at the Diablo seasonal affixes, they are very, very rarely negatives. They're positives. They increase the loot you get. They increase the... I don't know. The last one was, if you opened a pillar, you got a shadow clone. Things like that. Things that did kind of change your gameplay, and therefore revitalize the meta, revitalize the gameplay, but ultimately didn't make it much more difficult or much harder. I think I would prefer it to go the other way here. and maybe see, I don't know, a nice shrine that if you click it, you get a damage debuff, or I don't know, something like that. But yeah, I mean, like I said, I'm judging very quickly, and this might not be the seasonal affix. It might be something they're testing. It might not be anything like that. But I think it's a fair bet with what it is, what it's said, that it's probably our best leak so far, our best information so far. So let me know what you guys think. I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope it wasn't too negative. Let me know what you guys think. I'm really, really interested to hear. So guys, thank you for watching, and catch you later. Goodbye.